You've been through things that nearly broke you. Let's be real. There were days it felt like your soul was bleeding, the kind of pain that leaves you speechless. People you trusted walked away like you never mattered. Promises once spoken so beautifully ended up shattered. And there you were standing alone in the wreckage of disappointment, asking yourself why maybe at some point you even cried out, "God, where were you?" when I needed you the most. But listen closely to what I'm about to say. That pain was never meant to destroy you. It wasn't your final chapter. It was a classroom, a refining fire, a journey that God allowed so you could emerge stronger, wiser, and more deeply rooted in your faith than ever before. Because here's the truth, pain teaches us what comfort never could. It reveals the cracks in our foundation. It exposes what's real and what was only pretending. And most importantly, it pulls us closer to the one who never leaves, never changes, and never fails. You can't go through pain like that and come out the same. You don't survive betrayal without learning how to discern the hearts of people. You don't walk through loss without discovering what truly matters in life. And you certainly don't sit in darkness for that long without finally realizing that God Himself is light. You learn in that pain. You really do. You learn who you are. You learn what you're worth. And you realize there are certain things you'll never allow again. No one and nothing will ever hurt you the same way again. Not because the world got kinder, but because you got wiser. You stopped chasing what never ran after you. You stopped believing words that had no actions. You stopped trying to heal people who were committed to breaking you. And most of all, you stopped thinking that love requires you to break yourself. You don't need to prove your worth anymore. You just need to protect it. Some of you are still asking, why did I have to feel so deeply? Why did I lose so much? Why did my heart have to break into so many pieces? Let me tell you why. Because God wanted you to know what true wholeness really feels like. He allowed things to fall apart so that when He rebuilt you, no one could take the credit but Him. The pain humbled you, but it also made space for something greater. It emptied you so He could fill that space with strength, courage, discernment, and clarity. The enemy thought the pain would break you. He believed that if he could drag you down long enough, deep enough, you'd forget who you were. But what he didn't see coming was your comeback. Because now you don't operate from wounds anymore. You operate from wisdom. You no longer try to fix broken people just to feel loved in return. Because now you know you were never meant to be wounded in the name of love. Picking up from where we left off, after the pain refined, you shaped you and changed you, something else began to rise inside you. You started setting boundaries not out of fear, but from wisdom. And instead of fighting every battle yourself, you learned to step back and let God go before you. Now, you don't run from the fire anymore. You walk through it calmly, boldly, because you know there's already a fourth man in the flames with you. What used to shake you to your core doesn't even make you blink now. What once confused you and kept your mind spinning, now it makes perfect, crystal clear sense. And the things that used to steal your sleep, they no longer get even a second of your energy. You're not bitter, you're better. You're not lost, you're being led. You're not empty anymore, you're filled with purpose. And no, you're not broken now. You've been built up stronger than ever in the Spirit of the living God. You didn't just barely survive what was meant to destroy you. You were reborn, right in the middle of it. Every tear that once fell from your eyes, it was watering the soil for something far greater to grow. And now, when people come at you with the same old games, the same smooth lies, the same manipulative tactics, you don't flinch, you don't shrink. You simply smile and walk away. Because you've been there. You've felt that. And now you know you deserve so much more. You've been anointed to walk in peace. So no, it's not that the attacks won't come. It's that they won't hit the same anymore. Not because the enemy gave up, but because you've discovered where your true refuge lies. You've learned how to rest not in people, not in circumstances, but in God. You lean into His voice, not their opinions. You walk in grace and authority, not guilt and fear. Because now what used to break you, it builds you. What once was your weakness is now your wisdom. And what used to be pain has become your power. There was a time, maybe not so long ago, when you believed every word people said. You gave your heart freely, trusted quickly, forgave easily even when no apology came. You chose to see the good in others even when the bad was staring you right in the face. You weren't weak, you were hopeful. You weren't foolish, you were faithful. You just hadn't learned yet what life would eventually teach you. That not everyone who speaks is speaking truth. Not every smile is sincere. And not every presence brings peace. But now you see. Not through bitterness, but through clarity. You've walked through enough, cried enough, healed enough, to recognize this truth. Words are cheap, but peace is priceless. You've been burned by charm, fooled by consistency, left in the cold by people who once swore they'd never leave. And yet, here you are, still standing, wiser, stronger, more certain of who you are, and who you'll never be again. After everything you've been through, the heartbreak, the growth, the revelation, something deeper began to develop inside you. Something powerful, something sacred, something divine. It's called discernment. And, let me be clear, discernment isn't just knowing the difference between right and wrong, it's more subtle than that. It's knowing the difference between right and almost right. It's hearing the silence behind someone's carefully chosen words. It's sensing the spirit behind actions that seem harmless on the surface, but carry a hidden agenda underneath. Discernment is a gift, but it's not handed to you easily, it's forged in the fire. It comes through pain, through prayer, and through staying in the presence of God when everything inside you wants to run. It's what allows you now to see clearly what you once blindly embraced. It's why you no longer waste precious energy trying to explain your worth to people who are too blind or too broken to see it. You don't argue with lies anymore just to prove a truth someone is determined to reject. You don't react. You observe. You don't chase after people. You pray over them. You don't beg for closure. You bless them silently and keep moving forward. Why? Because now you know not everything deserves your attention. Not everyone should have access to your heart. And peace, real, lasting peace, comes from knowing the difference. Let me tell you something. This version of you, this discerning, grounded, spirit-led version, is untouchable. Not because life won't throw storms your way, but because you've finally dropped anchor. You used to be tossed by emotions, blown around by other people's opinions, and your own desire to be seen. But now you're governed by wisdom. You no longer rush into people's lives hoping they'll see your value. You stand still and let God reveal who's truly meant to be part of your journey. People might look at you today and say, "Why are you so quiet? Why are you more distant? Why do you seem so guarded?" They say, "You've changed," and you have. But not in the way they think. You're not cold, you're covered. You're not distant, you're protected. You're not hard, you're healed. You've learned discernment isn't just about seeing through others. It's how God preserves your peace. You remember those nights, don't you? Lying awake, replaying every word of a conversation, wondering what you did wrong, but not anymore. Now when something feels off, you don't wait for more red flags. You trust the Holy Spirit. You don't need confirmation when you already have peace. That's discernment. And that is growth. And the beautiful thing, now that your eyes are open, your heart is softer, not harder. You forgive faster. You don't hold grudges. You hold boundaries. You don't carry offense. You carry awareness. You're no longer living in fear of being hurt again. You just don't let people get close enough to do it. Now you know what it means to walk away, without explanation, to say no without guilt, to choose peace over popularity, to hear someone's flattery and still feel the warning in your spirit. Because when you've learned to discern, you've learned to live. After all that growth, all that clarity, all that discernment, you've reached a place that only experience could take you. Now you know when to stay silent. You know when to speak with boldness. And you absolutely know when it's time to walk away. That's not pride. That's not ego. That's discernment. And it didn't come cheap. It cost you years of wrestling with doubt. It cost you tears, countless silent tears. It cost you truth you didn't want to see, but had to. You see, once upon a time, you were open to everything. Because you hadn't yet learned the true cost of anything. But now you weigh every connection, not by how they look or what they say, but by the spirit behind it. You've stopped settling for surface-level vibes. You've learned to look deeper, much deeper. You ask God not just who are they, but show me their heart. Not their highlight reel, not their social image, but the truth that lives underneath it all. Because now you know God's protection doesn't always come in dramatic warnings. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes it's just a door that closes out of nowhere. Sometimes it's a whisper in your spirit that says, "Not this one." And that kind of discernment, you didn't get it from a self-help book or a sermon. No, this was personal. God taught it to you in the dark, in the stillness, in those moments where you had nothing left except Him. And now that you have it, you'll never let it go. Because discernment has become your shield. It's your compass, your confirmation when confusion tries to creep in. So next time the enemy shows up, wrapped in charm, covered in compliments, but carrying chaos in their spirit, you won't flinch, you won't panic. You'll simply smile, nod, and keep moving. Not because you're scared, but because you're aligned. You've learned peace doesn't need to be loud. And protection. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it's just that still small voice inside saying, "Not this time." And isn't it something? Sometimes we don't even realize just how deeply God protected us. Until we're standing safely on the other side of the storm. We look back and think, did they leave because of me? Was I not enough? Did I love too much? Did I do too much? But no. The truth is, some people weren't meant to stay. They were sent to reveal, to stir something in you, to wake you up, and ultimately, to make room for what's real, what's lasting. You begged God to fix it. You cried over them. You fought for them, even when they gave you only fragments. You gave grace over and over while they handed you pieces of themselves they never planned to make whole. And the more you tried to hold on, the more it slipped through your fingers. That wasn't random. That wasn't failure. That was God. That was Him pulling apart what you were desperately trying to keep together. Because He knew something you didn't. He saw what you couldn't see. He heard the conversations behind closed doors. He felt the intentions they tried to hide. And because He loves you, He stepped in. You see, God doesn't always remove people gently. Sometimes, He lets it explode right in front of you. Not to punish you, but to free you. He lets the betrayal cut deep enough that you never go back to what broke you. He lets the silence echo loud enough that you stop calling people who never pick up. And yes, sometimes He lets your heart break just enough so that you finally stop leaning on people and start leaning on Him. You thought it was rejection, but it was redirection. You thought you were losing something that mattered, but really you were gaining clarity. You thought you were being left behind. You thought the silence meant abandonment. But what you didn't see, what you couldn't yet understand, was that heaven wasn't ignoring you. Heaven was clearing your path. Because here's a truth that changes everything: God never lets go of what's meant to stay. And He will never allow confusion to take root in a place meant for peace. If something was truly part of your destiny, if it had a purpose in your future, He would have preserved it. He would have held it in place. He would have nurtured it. But if God removed it, then believe this: it was because it was threatening what He was building in you. It wasn't punishment. It was protection. He heard the whispers behind your back, the ones you didn't catch. He saw the envy in their eyes, the kind you kept giving the benefit of the doubt. He noticed how they only clapped for you when they were ahead. And the moment your light started to shine a little brighter, they changed. Their tone changed. Their energy shifted. And God, He saw all of it. That's why He stepped in. That's why He drew a line and said, "No more." Not to leave you lonely, but to leave you covered. Because before He could elevate you, He had to isolate you. You see, some of you are still grieving the people God removed. You're still mourning the endings, still replaying the moments, asking why it had to be so sharp, so sudden, so painful. But what if the answer is simpler than you think? What if God is saying, "Because I love you too much to let you settle there. Because I've prepared better. Because that connection wasn't feeding you, it was draining you. Because their spirit never aligned with the calling I placed on your life. Because I knew you wouldn't walk away on your own. And now, look at you, still standing, maybe a little scarred, maybe a little quieter than before, but oh, so much stronger, so much wiser, and clearer than you've ever been. Now you know what to look for. You've learned not to be impressed by words, you watch behavior. You've learned not to be drawn in by charm, you test the spirit. That's the power of divine removal. It may look like loss from the outside, but it's training. It may feel like heartbreak, but it's heaven's protection at work. And no, you don't need everyone to understand the way God moved in your life. You don't owe explanations for your healing. You don't need to justify why you stopped answering, why you stopped overextending, why you stopped tolerating what used to exhaust your soul. Let them talk. Let them wonder. You're not trying to win people anymore. You're walking in purpose now. You're choosing peace. And if peace cost you a few people, then that's a price worth paying. Because nothing and no one is worth sacrificing the future God is preparing for you. So don't grieve what God removed. Don't wish it back. Thank Him. Thank Him for every door that closed, even the ones you begged to keep open. Thank Him for every person who left, even the ones you thought would stay forever. Thank Him for every opportunity that fell through, because you don't know what He was protecting you from. You don't know what He saw, but you know this: He is good, always. And if it's gone, it had to go. Because now you're free. Free to grow, free to rise, free to walk forward into all that God has for you. And there comes a sacred shift in your walk with Him. A holy moment where you stop asking, "Why me?" and you start declaring with unwavering faith, "God, I trust you." And as you make that declaration, not just with your mouth, but with your life, you prepare your heart for what comes next. Because now that your hands are empty, God is ready to fill them. That's the turning point. That's the moment when everything begins to shift, not around you, but within you. That's when healing begins to take root, not just on the surface, but deep where no one else can see. That's when the pain no longer owns your thoughts, your reactions, your identity. That's when the story changes. You stop rehearsing the betrayal like it's your favorite script. You stop reliving the disappointment as if it's the only thing that ever defined you. You stop replaying the words that broke your spirit like a song stuck on repeat. And instead, you hand it over. You finally whisper with tired breath and open hands, God, take it. Take the grief. Take the confusion. Take the fear. Take what's been too heavy for me to carry alone. And no, that's not giving up. That's giving in. Giving in to the one who knows the end from the beginning. The one who sees the full picture when all you can see are broken fragments. You're handing it to the one who turns ashes into beauty. To the one who knows how to redeem the shattered pieces of your story and build something stronger, more meaningful, more glorious than what was lost. Because here's the truth. There is nothing weak about surrender when your hands are lifted toward heaven. In fact, sometimes the most powerful thing you can possibly do is let go. But we resist that, don't we? We hold on so tightly to what hurt us. We grip it with white knuckles as if somehow our suffering will justify itself. We try to fix it. We try to understand it. We try to make sense of it, believing that if we just try hard enough, we can rewrite the ending. We convince ourselves, if I can figure it out, maybe the pain will stop. Maybe the past will change. But faith? Faith doesn't demand understanding. Faith says, even if I never get the full picture, even if I never receive the closure, even if I never hear the words, I'm sorry, I will still trust the one who holds it all. Faith is quiet. It doesn't scream for justice. It whispers, God, I know you're still good even when life doesn't feel fair. You won't always get the apology. You won't always see the justice play out in front of you. You won't always understand why people did what they did. But here's what you will always have access to: peace. Real peace. Not the temporary kind that depends on everything going right. Not the shallow kind that disappears the moment someone hurts you again. No, this is divine peace. Peace that silences the storm within you, even if the storm around you still rages. And that peace, it doesn't come from revenge. It doesn't come from proving your point or getting even. It comes from one thing: surrender. Forgiveness doesn't mean what they did was okay. It doesn't mean you have to welcome them back. It doesn't mean you forget. Forgiveness simply means you're done carrying the weight. You're done letting their actions define your joy. You're done being held hostage by what they chose to do. It's not about pretending it didn't hurt. It's about saying, I refuse to let what broke me keep me broken. Forgiveness is your declaration that you are more than what happened to you, that you are not going to live your life bitter, that you are not going to be bound by wounds that God is ready to heal, that you are not going to be the victim in a story God has already redeemed. No, you might never fully forget it. You're human. God isn't asking you to erase your memory. But forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about releasing. It's unclenching your fists. It's saying, this may have happened to me, but it doesn't get to live in me anymore. And when you reach that place, when your heart is finally ready to release it, something powerful happens. Your spirit lifts, your eyes clear, your chest feels lighter. Because freedom doesn't come from fixing everything that went wrong, it comes from surrendering it to the only one who can make it right. So, yes, letting go is painful, but holding on to pain is far more dangerous. You're not weak for letting go. You're wise. You're not losing. You're learning. You're not giving up. You're growing up spiritually, emotionally, and in ways you never imagined. And now that you've tasted that freedom, now that you've taken your first deep breath without bitterness clinging to your lungs, you're ready. Ready for what comes next. Ready for what healing makes possible. Ready for the next chapter of purpose, clarity, and peace. This is what letting go really means. It means you stop trying to carry the weight of what was never yours to hold in the first place. It means you stop clenching your fists around pain, control, regret, and you finally lift those hands open, trembling maybe, but lifted toward heaven. Letting go means you stop trying to control what only God can handle. You stop trying to rewrite chapters that were never yours to edit. You stop rehearsing the wound, and instead you start speaking the word. You begin to declare, even when it hurts, God, I still believe you are good. I still believe you can use this. I still believe this pain will not be wasted. And something happens in that surrender, a holy shift. Something subtle, yet undeniable. You walk lighter. You smile deeper. You breathe freer. You stop needing people to understand your story because now you trust that God is guiding it. You no longer seek validation from those who once shattered your confidence. You no longer crave attention from the very ones who once ignored your worth. You don't need closure from them because God already gave you peace. Letting go doesn't mean you don't feel it. It doesn't mean the tears stop or the memories vanish. No, it means you feel it fully. And trust God anyway. It means you cry when you need to, but you don't stay stuck in sorrow. You keep walking forward, one step at a time. Some days it's slow, some days it still stings, but every single step forward is an act of faith. And every step of faith, that's a victory over the past. You begin to realize healing doesn't mean the pain never happened. It means the pain no longer dictates your future. You can remember without reliving. You can reflect without being wrecked. You can learn from it without being defined by it. And the more you surrender, the stronger your spirit becomes. The more you release, the more heaven can rise up inside you. Because here's the paradox. True strength was never found in your grip. It was always found in the release, when your heart is finally free, when the chains of resentment fall off, when the anger softens into peace and the fear gets swallowed by faith. You step into a protection that no person could ever give, a wholeness that no situation could ever steal. That's when you become untouchable, not because you've built walls, but because you've been covered. Covered in grace, covered in mercy, covered in truth. You don't have to be strong on your own anymore. You don't have to wear the mask, the one that says, I'm fine, when deep down you're exhausted, worn thin, worn out, wondering if you'll ever feel safe again. Let me tell you something from heart to heart. Real strength is not found in pretending you're okay. Real strength is found in who you run to when you're not. And there's only one place, strong enough, deep enough, eternal enough, to carry the full weight of your pain, your questions, your healing. It's in the arms of the one who made you, the one who sees you, the one who has never left your side, not for 1 second. God never asked you to fix yourself. He never expected you to carry it all alone. That's why he says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Not more rules, not more religion, not more pressure. Rest from the thoughts that keep you up at night. Rest from the guilt you keep replaying in your mind. Rest from the heartbreak, the betrayal, the silence that still echoes. Because life will break you down. If you try to carry it without him, it'll convince you you're alone. It'll whisper lies so loud they sound like truth. Lies like, you're not enough. You'll always be broken. You can't trust anyone. But when you finally step into the presence of God, when you make room for stillness, for quiet, vulnerable, real moments, you begin to hear a different voice. And in that presence, you realize you were never meant to fight alone. His presence doesn't mean storms won't come. It means you'll never face them unarmed. When the waves rise, you've got an anchor. When the arrows fly, you've got a shield. When the night is long, you've got a light that never burns out. You've got joy that doesn't come from circumstances. Peace that doesn't rely on people. Strength that doesn't fade when yours runs out. There is no therapy like time spent with him. No medicine like the whisper of his voice reminding you I am with you. You can cry there. You can question there. You can be silent there and still be heard. Because He's not looking for performance. He's looking for honesty. You don't need perfect words. Just a willing heart, even if it's trembling. And when you spend enough time in His presence, something beautiful happens. Not always around you, but inside you. You walk differently. You speak differently. You stop reacting. You stop chasing people who never saw your worth. You don't have to explain your growth. You don't need to announce your change. Let them talk. Let them wonder, while they're watching from a distance. God is lifting you in secret. He's rebuilding what they tried to break. He's healing the parts of you that used to ache. And when you rise from that prayer, even if nothing around you has changed, you have. You have peace. And that peace, it guards your heart. It guides your decisions. It protects you from going back to what once broke you. So if you want to live in a place where no one and nothing can ever crush you again, make His presence your refuge. Stay there. Dwell there. Cry there. Heal there. And you will discover something undeniable. Not only are you safe, you are unshakable.